Makes the ride really hard, though.
Hey,
What's the intro?
Jeremigos. Welcome to study session number 18 for the ACP-420. Looks like the four of us are here. Alex just blinded himself, so he can't read anything, any script or anything like that for the next, 30 seconds or anything like that. So, which won't matter anyway, because we don't have a script. So.
I mean, no, we don't. But we do have something. I felt important after last week when I didn't show up because I'm sick for me to at least be here enough to say I'm going to do it again.
Okay. Bye, Rodney.
Bye.
Ron is stepping in, though.
Ron is going to step in for me. We've already talked out with him. He knows what I'm supposed to be doing. I want to be here, guys. Seriously, I really do. But I am not doing okay today. And before I pass along virtually to other members of our team, I'm going to hop out.
You'll be here for the grand finale.
Yep, I will be. I'll see you guys on Wednesday, one way or another.
See ya.
All right. So, and Rodney, oh, there he goes. Okay. So, Sarah, only because I know you have been following along. What did we last leave off with?
I'd have to see the panel on the left to remind me, but I feel like we were going to dive into a little bit more of automations, and I know we had assets still left, so we had things starting with A.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by the letter A.
And not all the people on the board behind me.
Yes. But yeah, so I think a lot of we've talked about automation, I feel like, in previous segments. So certain bits of this are probably going to be a little bit repetitive, if not, we don't mean to repeat, but there will be some things on here when we talk about automations that will sound hopefully familiar, be good reminders, but then in this case, potentially a little bit more focused on what we can do with those with service requests.
Exactly. So we're going to take a look at automations. There are in this little course a few example automations that go with service request management. And so there's some things here about routing service requests to the appropriate team, auto provisioning requests, and then automatically approving request for.
And I think we did the last time we did the expands on all of these.
Okay.
I think we did. I remember kind of thinking about we can automatically approve maybe if they're managers, and we can go find the teams that we have lots of ways to do that. So I think we were ready to,
Yeah, I think we're ready to actually hit onto some of these other other automations using that to change status, especially when we've unfortunately breached the SLA. So,
oh, darn it.
So, when you configure an automation, there are typically three main things to look at, right? The first thing would be a trigger. So a trigger, Alex, a trigger is what?
I like to call it the catalyst, something that triggers, right? Like you can't use trigger, the word in the definition. Right?
You can't use the word when you're defining it. So, you have to.
It jumpstarts the whole process, right? Something needs to say me.
For example, if you happen to have a lovely Amazon Echo device, right? How do you get its attention?
Yes.
Say Amazon.
It is the when of the statement. It is the King Bob part.
Right. So a trigger is going to be the what wakes up the automation rule, right? And so for our example here, we will use a pre-configured trigger called the SLA threshold breach trigger. So that happens if which alerts us to at-risk SLAs to stay on top of important work items. So you can choose from the SLAs that you have so that to act as that trigger. All right. It doesn't show it here, but the second part of an automation rule is
The optional part.
Yes.
You guys are. I don't usually start with the optional part. I usually tell people it's the non-optional part first,
Right.
and then the optional.
So yeah, what we're saying though here is they're not covering conditions here,
Right.
but frequently.
But frequently you do have conditions to help elaborate on once the rule has been activated through the trigger. How do we parse through it to really see if we need to do what we have to do, right? And what we need to do, what we have to do, that section is called the actions.
But before you get there, though, Bob, another reason why you do want the condition is because it will help you keep your
Usage.
your usage down.
Mm-hmm.
Because you only get dinged for every successful automation.
It keeps your usage down, and it helps you ensure you're not taking actions on things that where you might not want that action to be taken. So it's all about narrowing down the focus of it.
Okay. But for this example, no conditions. We jump straight to the action, and the action is
transition our item. Move it on to a different status, so long as that line exists between those two statuses. One thing I will mention with this, because again, we are talking about the 420. And so with triggers and actions, you're going to, when you first go to create an automation, there are going to be filters for triggers and filters for actions. And you should see Jira Service Management as one of those filters. So something that you're probably going to want to be familiar with are what are some of those triggers and what are some of those specific actions that can be taken on a JSM project that you can't on a Jira project. So in this case, it was a great example, right? Because you're going to have things about SLAs, being running, SLAs being breached, things to do, well, with approvals and JSM projects. Because as of the test writing, approvals were relegated to JSM. But if you are using this to help study for the test, highly recommend looking those options in your automations.
Yep. All right. So now, one thing that I know about working with automation rules is that this is very, very visual. It's no code, so you are actually going through and picking and clicking. And hopefully when I expand on the example configuration, you're going to see a pretty picture. And I do. Okay. Not that pretty, but it's
sparkles.
Yeah, they're sparkles.
It's Robin Sparkles.
Yep. And so you can see here the two parts that we've talked about. The trigger, like the wake word in for the Amazon Echo or Siri or whatever your favorite voice tool is, shows up here in the screen, and then our action here shows up in this blue field. And that's a simple automation. Let's see what we can do on our next automation.
So auto assigning work items. This is another, at least I think, a fun one, because especially if your service team, right? And Bob, keep me honest here, when we're talking about ITIL, I do believe one of the concepts though is like your whole team should be able to pick up almost any of the items that come through, right? The service team is all trained up. So your queues are set up, maybe your ordering is by priority and not necessarily by, this person knows how to handle that and that person knows how to handle something else. So somebody can go into a service queue and read an item and take it. So rather than that being kind of a pull, we can use automation to push out those assignments. So we can walk through what that might look like.
Yep. All right. Just like our previous automation rule, we have our wake word, a trigger. So let's see what that looks like. And this basically goes once a work item has been created. So when the customer goes through, fills out their form, clicks on the submit. It turns that request type into a work item in behind the scenes in Jira. When that happens, that wakes up our automation rule. And, there may be additional conditions. They're not shown here. You may want conditions based upon priority, based upon the work item type. You want to make sure that this is specifically a request and not something else like a story. So it's not showing conditions, but, we would probably be adding some conditions here. But then once we've got the trigger, got our conditions, here comes the action. And the action would be to
assign the work item. And so there are a couple of ways. In this one, they're suggesting to use a user in a defined list. So for the method to choose the assignee, we can choose balance workload. It'll go out there and find out, look at the workload report, who's low, who's high. I'm going to go ahead and assign this over to somebody maybe on the lower end of that. And then for the JQL to restrict work items, choose status category equals done. I got to read through this one because I'm wondering why that JQL is there on the assignment portion. So the work item will be assigned to the user with the least open work items as defined by the JQL. Got it. I actually haven't used this particular function in there. So if you wanted to say maybe there is a group that, maybe you have multiple teams sharing in your same service desk. So perhaps you want to find all of the items where the assignment group or that team, right? Because we can use a team field where somebody is a part of that team, or where you want to find service requests that have to do with hardware as opposed to those that have to do with software. So in this case, it is working like a condition, but more so it's letting you narrow your focus in on those assignees. So then it says, finally, in the user list, search and select the team members you want to divide the workload among, right? Because this is an automation that's going to happen over and over and over. So that workload balance is going to shift and adjust over time. So you want this to look at that balance every single time and then say, these are those users. Yep. I want it to be assigned to either Bob, Sarah, or Alex, and that's it.
Yeah, don't assign it to Rodney. He's sick. All right. So again, automation rules are graphic. Let's see what it looks like. So we already know about the trigger when the work item is created. This is how we assign the work item. You can tell that there were a few things that we have to configure, like Sarah talked about. We want to assign the work item based upon a user list, and we chose that here. How do we choose our assignee? We set up a balanced workload, and then that balanced workload, what's the JQL to kind of set up the calculation of the balanced workload? It's this one right here. And then
I like that status category does not equal done. So, because yes, technically you could create an issue and set the status right away.
Yeah.
But
I'm personally a fan of the round robin instead of the balanced workload, but I like it just go around the circle.
Yeah, but then there are pluses and minuses. What happens if Sarah's on vacation?
Then you use not sponsored resolutions out of office assistant.
Right. I was going to say that all of that comes into play because whenever we have a static list that is not always static, how do we manage that?
Yeah. Don't go on vacation.
Yeah, and then we end up like Alex, who's I don't know if he's bitter yet, and give him another couple days.
He's still on his post-event high. All right. So we can also use automation for employee onboarding. So we talk about Jira Service Management as enterprise management, also lots of different service teams out there. And so HR is a function that can be is going to also be a service function. And so this one's interesting, though. For example, the automation rule can meet the hiring manager's needs. So they submit a request for a new employee. And then this automation can facilitate to set up office location and badge, and IT to set up hardware and software. So it comes into one place, but we have other teams that need to also perform a service in order to fill the overall need. So we can use our automation rules to take from what comes into one project, create related items in other projects. And then our IT automation can even trigger the following tickets for IT work. So provision a new laptop, install the required programs, create an email account. So when we go down, we can see how that was configured. This is where we get a lot more of our items.
This is a lot more complex. You can actually see that, yes, in this one, we actually do have conditions because we have a lot going on. So what would the trigger be? All right. The trigger is our old favorite work item created. So, basically, when that employee onboarding request gets created in the human resources project, that linked request is created in the IT support project to onboard the employee. So,
and when do we want that to happen? Or if now our conditions are our ifs.
Here comes the additional ifs. There are any number of conditions that we can add. So, and we mentioned this before, work item created is going to trigger anytime any work item is created. So we probably need conditions to make sure that the ones that we're looking for, in this case, it would be like an onboarding request, is the one that the automation rule will handle. So that's where we're going to have to set up one or more conditions to do that.
And it should also be noted that the automation usage limits are different per product. And Jira, a lot of customers are usually on the premium version of Jira, so you got a lot. But on the JSM side, not everybody opts in for premium, and so your rules are significantly more limited. So you definitely want to at least add at least your project or contain the scope to just that project, so you're not triggering every time. Because otherwise, you're going to run out real quickly.
This is true.
All right. The trigger's been fired. We pass through the conditions. What do?
We run?
Well, before we run, we're going to create a work item with a request type action. So this allows us to select a service project, a request type, a reporter, and then adding a summary. So,
for instance, that provision laptop one, right?
Right. Provision laptop. It might be for facilities to, get this guy an office, that sort of thing, or a cubicle. And then other actions. We can link work items, link the most recently created work item, and then to the trigger work item.
Yep. And this again is one of the areas, though, to be aware of, that if the actor of the automation doesn't have the permission to create those items and those other projects, your automation's going to fail.
Yep.
More often than not, automation has pretty much, typically organizations will configure automation to be able to create items in all of the other projects. So you hopefully don't bump up against that, but just in case.
You also want to watch your scope on the rule details, because if you scoped it to just a single project, it won't be able to go and create it in another project.
So
actually,
you're talking about making sure it's scoped to multiple projects and not just a single project, or global.
You can in a single project automation, you can create something in another project. What
I've
you
tried
can't
it.
do is trigger an action on another project when it's a single scope project or a single project
What
scope automation.
what did you
Okay.
just say?
If I'm in the HR project, I can create a project only automation in HR to go create a ticket over in IT.
How do
I
you
can
do
do
that?
that in an HR only project automation. What I cannot do is now, let's say these two things are linked. I cannot in my HR project say, when the IT ticket is updated, add a comment on my HR ticket, because now I'm dealing with two projects. I know you're shaking your head at me, but I've done this recently.
I did the first part recently, and it won't do it unless you add the scope to the other project.
I have one running right
To
now.
Jira.
And we can check it later, but it's only when you have, I was going to say actions in two different projects, but it's not exactly that. But you can create an object. You can create an item in another project.
I think that's actually one of the things that you can kind of configure is what project the work item that you're going to create goes to.
Yes.
And we might actually see if this is there graphically without going to Jira.
They're not showing the bits, but yeah.
They're not showing the bits,
I'm
but
gonna go try while you
actually
guys do that.
they are showing the bits in the background, I think. Owner, actor. No, that's just the rule details. But you know, Sean's already believing Sarah, so who am I to dispute that?
Yeah, it's only create. You can't update. You can't go find other issues. You can't use like lookup issues. You can't use linked issues unless they're in the same project. But yeah.
So this rule is different from the others because now we have our little yellow box here. This is what a condition looks like. Trigger, then create work item with a request type. That's the request type in this project. So, and then link to most recently created work item.
And what's super fun, of course, because our friends at Atlassian have 100 different changes every week. Your conditions could be a yellow, another box with a little yellow icon indicating a condition. Your conditions could also now be a part of your actual triggers. You can add your conditions up there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that change. I have to. So for a client, they really wanted to get ahead of the game and take the project with spaces change, right?
Uh-huh.
And they were on a bundled release track because they wanted to know exactly what they were getting every month. Not a problem. I'll set up a bundled release track. We want this one change. Well, okay. Well, if you want it now, that means I'm going to have to turn off bundled release tracks.
Right. It's bundled.
Right. And so we did it on a development instance on the sandbox, and lo and behold, just like that, spaces came on along with a whole bunch of other changes. So
yeah. So yes.
But,
and again, just as an aside, shouldn't be on your 420, but in case you're interested, this scenario is exactly one of the things Journeys was created for, especially in HR. So now they have Journeys, so you can create a whole slew of items and other projects. The interesting thing that I don't know the answer to yet is whether Journeys count against your automations or not. I'm thinking they don't actually. Like, I think there's an explicit, you could add an automation to it, but if a journey is just running, it might not count against your automations, which is great for those organizations that are on the lower plans that have limited automations. This lets you beef up your HR functions. All right, let's go see what we learned.
all right, quiz time. And this is all for Alex, just because he's been away from this for a while. Aren't you glad you're back, Alex?
Oh no, I'm done taking tests.
No, you're not.
I'm all tested out from Barcelona. So.
No, you're not. Ishan is a service project admin. He wants to automatically notify agents when a customer comments on their request. True or false? You got a 50-50 shot. Ishan should definitely use automation to meet this requirement.
True. That's too much.
I mean, I think true.
I'm
The
I wish it was
definitely is a
could.
little too drastic, but
Yeah, I wish it would say he absolutely could use automation as opposed to should use automation. But
I mean, this is how,
I'm leaning toward false, just because there are other ways, like being
there's other
watchers
ways
and
to
things
do
like
it,
that.
but
But you know,
we're in the automation section, so I don't know.
all right, here comes the button push.
I'm gonna do true only because this is the way I always solve it, which is with an automation rule.
Oh,
It's false.
oh, it's
Ugly
false.
Bob. It's that
false.
damn should. That should. Okay,
What's the
use
answer?
project notifications to meet the needs first. Yeah.
But this is a wrong answer. Your notifications are for any comment, no?
Well, there's lots of context in there too about whether, if they must have notifications, then you don't want to use notifications. That sounds brilliant, doesn't it? But
Oh,
like if they must be pinged, prompted somehow, because they can turn off notifications. But okay, I told you, or maybe I haven't said it recently. Notifications on every single exam I took, I got the lowest scores in that area. So don't listen to me.
So you're saying
I wouldn't go with. I still think our answer is right because the notification scheme for customers is when a public comment is added, it goes to the customer. But this is saying you're trying to notify your agents. So that defaults you to the internal notifications. And the internal notifications is simply when a comment is made. So you don't want this triggering when an internal comment is made, only when the external comment is made.
Yeah.
I think it.
Nicholas is coming in and saying, yeah.
And Nicholas
The
says,
notification is going to notify you on both public and private comments. It's just a comment.
I think this is a case of where this is an example question, and it's an example of the kinds of questions that should no longer be on the certification exams because we don't have true false questions anymore, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think they're making them all multiple choice.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And it's our friend should, and anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
But Jira
that
says
was just a one question. We only got one question.
Yeah, that was it.
Man, we've never gotten a 0% before. I'm so sad.
I think I'm gonna take it as a win. I got it right. Jira, the question's wrong.
This is why he doesn't take tests.
All right.
I go and argue with Reed right as soon as I take the test. I'm like, your test is wrong. she's like, I know, we need to make some updates.
It would be outdated, maybe not wrong, because I imagine at some point in time it was not wrong.
At the rate that Atlassian changes Jira, they get out of date real quick.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Soon we're gonna have Rovo certifications. On-demand certifications. No. I mean, like Rovo will be the test. Like you'll log into some Rovo agent. It'll just throw random questions at you. So it'll always be up to date. And then Rovo decides your fate.
I hope that doesn't happen. I tried to use Rovo today for a demo, and I'm like,
Maybe not yet. All right, but speaking of Rovo,
and artificial intelligence, let's talk about the virtual service agent.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, so Sarah is 100% correct. I tested this 2 different ways, and you can trigger in a single scoped project and it will create in either a Jira or JSM. I know I ran into a problem with this, so now I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes. But I was
might have-
experiencing a problem.
Yeah, the challenge is when you want to update one based on the other.
I wasn't trying to do any updates. I was literally just trying to create. But it might be the
Interesting.
linking that wasn't working, but I could have sworn something wasn't working.
And it can't look up the issue to link it. So
Probably.
you gotta
That's
kind of
probably
do
what,
it in
yeah.
that, like in that advanced area, or make sure you just have your link
Yeah.
directions right. But yeah,
At
Yep.
this point, I'm going to mark this so that Lena can go back and rewind to the part where Alex says Sarah was right. And we're going to make a nice little short just
Well,
for you, Sarah.
So the funny thing is, though, I think we've already had this discussion, so it's twice, and he just refuses.
That's why there's
to
a
listen to
hashtag,
it.
Sarah. How do you think the hashtag came to be? It's every time I argue with you that you're wrong.
I only fight for things I know. All right. So we can automate support interactions using our virtual service agents. Now, one of the things, though, I will say with this, they're probably not going to be talking about Rovo agents when on the 420, because again, the 420, I believe this one was written prior to Rovo being widely available.
Correct.
There were some AI capabilities out there, but not like Rovo specific out there. So we'll get a better sense of it as we talk through this. But just in case this is going to be one of those areas that you're very familiar.
So
with the
I
things
was
you can
I
do
was
with
there
the
when they did
agents.
the last revision of the 420, and you know, Atlassian Intelligence was talked about, and virtual service agents are one of those areas where they do talk about using Atlassian Intelligence. It hadn't, the capabilities hadn't grown into Rovo just yet.
Yeah.
So they did not test on that.
Yeah. So you don't want to throw all your extra context at it, is the point.
Yeah.
That when you're taking the test, you just got to go with whatever they say. All right. But those virtual service agents can help resolve common problems, answer frequently asked questions, and triage requests, saving your agents hours of work, right? It's the first way you can have an interaction with some of those requests and have it all based on triggers and responses. And in this case, it can be powered by that Atlassian intelligence. Now we commonly know that as Rovo. So yes, they can do it from the service management portal when enabled, Microsoft Teams or Slack. So you have those bots that you can start interacting with to ultimately ask some sort of questions to gain some more insights into what the person needs. It can offer up suggestions of articles and or ultimately go ahead and create that request on behalf of somebody. And we've got a blue box here, friends. Blue box.
Blue box.
Project admins set up the virtual service agents.
So this is something the project admin can do. All right. Don't have to be a Jira admin for to set up the virtual service agent. All right. So how can the virtual service agent respond to requests? There are two ways. The first is intent. So
yeah, and this is all I was going to say is this is again one of those areas where if we think about setting up our portals and our forms and we think about focusing on from the customer's perspective, how it looks to them and how they're going to be thinking about it, the same thing's going to happen here with your virtual service agent with your intents. So back to you, Bob, on what an intent is.
So an intent is a specific problem, question, or request that your virtual service agent can help resolve for your customers. So it has to be it has to be really specific. You can't. There's not a lot of wiggle room on the intent, if I remember right.
I think there's a lot of you can train it with a lot of different phrases to look for. I don't know if you can get down to the keyword exactly on it, but you can throw a ton of phrases into it that people might be putting into their bots. And that's where, and like thinking like your customer really comes in handy when you start to set these up to give them some things that are going to be familiar with them.
Okay. Something like, you know, how to change my Wi-Fi password. right? Or how to change my password, or that might be specific enough to qualify as an intent. All right. The other one is AI answers. So this is where we're starting to use the as Alex says, Jippity to answer
trending.
customer questions.
Yeah, so it's almost like your search on your help center or your summary fields,
Mhm.
but kind of accessing that through another way, which is through the virtual service agent. And it has that a little bit more interaction on it because it's not just a search and a result. It can be, sort of your prompt, your first question, your intent. And then you can have trees off of these to also get more information.
All right. So we're going to take a deeper dive into intents and Atlassian intelligence answers. Let's see what happens with an intent.
I'll take that. That's that
Go for it.
predefined conversational flow. So what I was saying, right? What is somebody likely to type in here? And it uses conversation flows like a normal conversation between two people, right? I ask you something, you give me an answer, and then you might have an additional question for it, or I might have more questions for you. And so exactly right. It goes back and forth. It says something, the customer said something. And then so admins can manually create the intents for any work item or use intent templates. So you would only have your intent, whichever one you create, is only good for one request type. I think you might be able to have multiple intents to a same request type. I'd have to double check that. But the idea is that, there's one flow associated with that request type. One conversation that you can associate. So it can't be super broad when you create your intent and have it say, oh, well, if it's this, go to this request type. And if they answer A, go to, I need a new laptop. And if they answer B, then it creates a request access to hardware or, request new hardware. It doesn't work like that. It has to be, everything leads them to a request a new laptop request.
Okay.
So, but then they also have templates to make that easy for you, right? To help you jumpstart getting one set up. So the examples they give here, guided work troubleshooting, did you try turning it off or on? Yes or no? And then you get paths that you get to take from that. Is your camera plugged in? Yes or no? Requires information collecting and triaging, and then requires an automated action via web request. So in this case, they were saying software access requests, reporting an incident, new hardware, procurement requests, onboarding workflows. And then with our AI answers, so our responses.
All right.
Over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, this is where we're starting to use generative AI, generative artificial intelligence. This is going to look at the knowledge bases and to answer the customer questions. Now, the nice thing about this is you're not necessarily training like you would be with an intent. You're just automatically getting those responses to those requests instantly. So the advantage of this is you don't need to set up. You can get quick answers just by connecting up to the knowledge bases. So anything that is in the knowledge base, but you don't necessarily know where, this would be perfect for that, right? And these are things that just don't need to be escalated. So you could use Jippity to ask, when is the Easter holiday, in 2026, right? Or what is the Wi-Fi password for this building, right? Or how do I reset my password?
I like the idea. What's the password? And if it finds the passwords, then you have a little bit of a problem, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah. So much like we talked about with automation, if there's things that you can automate, those repetitive tasks, if there's those questions you get over and over and over again, how can I make it so I don't have to answer that question again? Where's the pencil sharpener? You can use an agent or one of these virtual agents to do that.
So this is actually kind of interesting. We have intents, we have AI answers. How do we know which the virtual service agent is using first? It's going to look at all the intents first to see if there's something that it can travel in and match. And if it doesn't find anything there, then it's going to go all jippity on you. So
or all rovo on you.
All rovo on you.
I think we should probably be a little more on brand here.
All right. Well,
Hey, when Robo starts working, you let me know.
It does. It may not be in your cases, or maybe you could.
I think Rovo's got an agenda against Alex. Rovo knows the internet. It's probably Rovo's been trained on YouTube, and any sass that Alex has given, Rovo holds a grudge. So I vouch my Rovo overlord, you are almighty, and I hope that the next time we talk, you give me Mondo correct answers.
Right. I tried
to do a video for Atlassian today on Robo, and I'm like, all I know is that Jensen and Sharif have both told me flat out, if Robo doesn't work, show it to me, and we're gonna go fix it. So I'm like, I'm leaving this in the recording so y'all can go look at it because it does not work.
So you're gonna talk about this with Jensen on Thursday, aren't you?
If I show up, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say there are inputs and there's outputs, and they help each other. All right, so here's what an intent can look like. And it is, you do get a decent graphical interface when you're building these intents with all of their decision points. The word was just escaping me. But so here we start with a customer message, then it hears back from the virtual service agent, and then we get the chance to branch off into a question. Are there existing intents? The virtual service agent will answer using AI, or the agent will match an existing intent. So even though this is just a diagram of how that process works, this is also indicative of how it works when you start to create those intents. It looks very similar.
Yeah, and actually, I think the next section we're going to dive into that a little more. So, one word of warning: yes, you do need to activate Atlassian Intelligence to use the virtual service agent.
And who needs to activate Atlassian Intelligence?
That would actually be not the Jira admin, but the org admin, because it is on a product on the administration hub, the admin.atlassian.com.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it needs to be enabled up here. And then a project admin does need to configure that. Yep.
All right. So this is what configuring an intent would look like. So this is one for setting up a VPN. Let's see, how much can I
was gonna. I can't see that.
Oh, here we go.
I know it's the zoom for the screenshot, but not the zoom for the screenshot.
What was it? Command
Shift. You trying to take a screenshot on a Mac?
No, I'm not trying to take a screenshot on a Mac. I'm trying to magnify this.
Oh.
But basically, yeah, the top we're seeing, the start of the intent, and then probably a little bit of the response from the service agent, and then coming down now into a question. And your questions are, they can be multiple choice. Yes, no is probably going to be the most common thing. And so basically it's going to ask that question. Your customer is going to see the two options. And then depending upon which option they hit, they're either going to see another response, or they might see that article, or they might be like, shrug, I don't know, I got to go create a ticket for you. And here's your ticket number.
Right. And so this is, notice how this always, the response to either the yes or no always results in an action. In this case, for the yes, if it resolves the issue, it just marks it as resolved. If the answer is no, it will escalate, probably creating a change request.
That's the escalate. Yep. And there you go. Those are the terminals for it, right? Escalate or resolve.
And then, throw out the customer satisfaction survey.
Yeah. Thing is, I don't know if that goes in tickets deflected or not. I'd be curious. But not a 420 question.
Not a 420 question. You could probably ask Jensen on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're queuing up a lot of questions for Jensen.
Poor Jensen. He's going to show up. Ambush.
Actually, it's not an ambush if she has the questions beforehand, which she does.
Not mine.
And our interviews are not meant to be ambushes. They are meant to be.
No, I already ambushed her in Barcelona. We already had a little.
All right. Anyway, so
Sharif got like 30 minutes of me. He's done.
So our virtual agent here and our templates can be from your data. So leverages generative AI to recommend relevant intents based on your team's historical ticket data, right? So even though you're not purposefully training anything, it is able to make use of what already exists out in your project. So it can help create some of those intents or suggest those intents and find areas where virtual agents might be able to help you improve your service turnaround times. And then there's also regular templates. So default templates are created based on common intents and work item categories used by teams like yours. So we can click to understand the two statuses of an intent, our test and our live. And fun fact, they're exactly what they sound like. You can create one and then you can go play with it in a testing environment, if you will. So you can make sure that all those lines that you drew, all those branches you created, and those actions and responses come back the way you expect them to. And so when you have a very complex one with multiple branches, it takes you a really long time to test it. I suppose unless you create a robo agent to go test it. But even then it takes a while. And then live. So once you have it in the working the way you want it to, then you basically go live, kind of like publishing it. Basically, you're just going to make it available for your customers to use. And then you can put it in the channels that you wanted, such as your Slack channels. You can have it out on your portal. There are other places where folks can start interacting with the virtual service agent. Blue box.
Blue box. So there's a place where you can get additional help on creating, editing, or deleting an intent. That is, I think it's support.atlassian.com. So it's the knowledge base.
Pretty much.
All right. Training your virtual service agent to recognize questions. So when the customer message matches an intent, the virtual service agent will traverse down that intent for the conversation flow. But before it can do that, it has to recognize which intent we're looking at, right? And so that's a little bit of training. That's kind of like old school artificial intelligence, machine learning. So not necessarily the generative part. It's presenting a lot of data for your virtual service agent to pick up on and form those quote unquote neurons.
Yeah, and this gets back again to that thinking like your customer. How are they going to phrase it? What are some of the words they're going to use? And that it says here, it doesn't have to exactly match your training phrase, but also I think it is going to be a little bit more than keywords. It's going to be, a few of those strings and phrases that go together that it's going to start going, hey, I recognize that pattern.
Yeah.
I think I'll show this one.
So there are several sources of this. One is the project admin, right? The second is historical data, right? That project admins use to create the intent. Third comes from Atlassian itself to help project admins create the intent. And then this training data set can be further modified by the project admin.
You can iterate.
Yes,
You can help push it to make it better.
I for information.
Yeah.
The machine learning model is not shared with other Atlassian customers. All right.
Allegedly. They wouldn't lie, Alex. So Right.
Well, maybe. All right. And is used solely to enhance. So the analysis of the work items and the chat transcripts used solely to enhance your experience. All right. How do we train our virtual service agents in this? We start by pooling together a collection of common phrases to train the AI, and then when the training is complete, you can go from that test mode into live mode to handle the incoming requests. So,
and now again, not 420. I think a lot of what we're talking about in here, it's almost more of an awareness play of how virtual service agents can work. And if you were going to go create one now, my guess is that you're going to see, use your RoboChat agent too. Use your RoboChat. You don't have to come up with all of the options and the ideas for some of those phrases. You can let it create them and then just start using them within your intents.
Yeah. So you can use several of these to help reflect something, like, for example, if it's a VPN related issue, broken VPN issue, VPN problem.
VPN work item.
And then, so as part of that, if it goes live, the customer can say, my VPN is not working. If the AI is still in a learning phrase, will this is what I call the active listening part of it, is where it's basically repeating the question back to the customer, right? You're telling me that your VPN is broken. Is that correct? And this helps the AI understand, okay, it's this intent. It's the VPN broken intent that I have to use. So how can you help effectively train, right? This is what Sarah has been saying all evening long, right? And, as we have about 6 minutes to go, I'm going to say right now, I'm going to basically give Sarah 100% of the kudos and basically repeat what Sarah said, right? Think like your customer. Use the words that your customer would actually use.
Yep.
And then the second point is think like your customer. Do it in as many ways as you can think of. Different words, different phrases. So.
Yeah, and definitely, again, make use of RoboChat. Just say, generate a list of these, read through it, adjust as needed, copy and paste them in, and you're done. It's going to be a very quick task. It doesn't have to be painstaking to do this.
Right. And then, like Sarah just said, review, evaluate, see if it does the job. If it doesn't, then, you may want to make some changes. All right. So that was intense. We're going to move on to configuring AI answers, which is going to be just a little bit easier.
Yeah, because when AI answers is active, it first attempts to match the intent with the customer's initial messages. If no high confidence matches are found, it will answer the question using AI answers. So our high confidence is saying, hey, I'm not an exact match, but I'm pretty darn sure this is what you mean. And so one of the things we'll want to do is connecting our self-service knowledge base, right? So we need it to know where can it go look for answers? What is the sources of its information? What is it kind of like allowed to say? Because we want to make sure it's not pulling it in from restricted content. So you link it to that knowledge base through Confluence or JSM's knowledge base. You can continue to build your knowledge base over there in Confluence or with JSM in order to provide the best relevant information so that AI can take that. It may show the page, just the link to the page. It may show it, generate some of that content, summarize it for the person, and then create sources so people know where it's all coming from. So that is up there. Yep, that little blue button, add knowledge. I wish it was that easy and I had a button, add knowledge. But that is how we tell it where to go to find the answers. And then once our knowledge base is ready and we activate AI answers in our service agent settings. So this just walks us through how to do that. Again, we're looking at a project administrator screen. We've got everything enabled at our organization level. Now at our project level, we just have to go, yeah, I want to use AI or Atlassian intelligence answers and just flip that little switch on. And then we want to activate in the pop-up, right? Basically give it the yellow light, even though it's a green light that says, yes, let's make this happen, friends. And now if we want to connect it with some of our other chat channels like Slack, we have the ability to do that. There, you might have to work with your Slack administrators, make sure that your integrations between the two products are set up. But the steps out there in your project admin area are going to walk you through what needs to happen on both sides to be able to deliver information and get that return information back. So these screens will walk you through that. And then a few things to keep in mind when we have our knowledge base articles. So AI answers, the grammar's off. AI answers do not extract information from images.
Not yet, anyway.
Right. I was going to say again, this was probably written a little while ago. AI answers performs best with text, not in tables and Confluence. And, in fact, I was reading something today that I think Rovo was having trouble or cannot access information in Confluence databases also. So there are some of those just things to be aware of, which is why this is in that that it is still language, not data, is the best way I think I can explain that, right? So it is going to stumble over some of those things. And so that quality is going to rely on the knowledge base's accuracy and clarity, so is it garbage in, then it's going to be garbage out. And so a well-structured, up-to-date knowledge base enables better question deflection by the virtual service agent, right? Help it, help them. Going way back to a theme we had a long time ago. Help them, help you, help it, help them. So now we get a quiz. We can do the quiz before we go.
Bob already answered it.
Yeah.
2 for the first one.
Hooray! Well, funny because some of these things, yeah, are going out of order. Why is this? Why it happened again, Bob?
Because
know.
I've seen this happen where they pull the exact same section from another
Exactly.
lecture.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like an excerpt include.
Yeah.
So,
Here we
Samir has been receiving numerous password reset requests from customers for various software apps offered by his company. Fortunately, there are dedicated pages in the knowledge base that provide clear instructions on how to reset passwords. By automating these requests, customers can be seamlessly directed to these pages, significantly saving time for Samir and his fellow agents. Can Samir implement AI answers to automatically access and search the knowledge base? We know the answer is yes. How would it do it?
Robo?
Because we've activated AI answers in our virtual service agent and we hit that add knowledge button.
And that is why I hashtag believe Sarah right.
Woohoo!
Uses AI answers. We are. Well, that was one of two. Two of two. Yeah, where are you? It's already okay.
Yeah.
We're at time.
Yeah.
We have, I think this says it's okay. We have this reports, and then we're on to keeping track of an organization's assets.
How
And
long
then
is the
that is
assets? Sorry.
How long are the Aztecs?
Ooh,
I know. Oh, that's really long.
that's not one more episode. That's like 2, maybe
3, maybe another month.
Yeah.
There's
I
Well,
almost went with final on the thumbnail. So glad I didn't.
Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't do that.
it should be at some point it's going to be its own certification, friends. It's going to be its own certificate. I imagine there might be an ACP one day. I'm just guessing here, folks, but there's so, and especially because as assets become a platform app as opposed to tied to JSM.
Yep. Nope.
So
Totally believe
might
that.
be worth the price of admission, but it's a lot.
So we might be looking at assets for, another week or so. But so I think on Wednesday it'll be me. It might be Rodney. Pounding out and seeing how far we get along into assets. So
I might join from the happiest place on earth.
No.
You guys don't want, I can be on It's a Small World the whole time and just have that.
Yeah, I'm gonna like see. I can do things like remove you and mute you, and well, we have to mute you because we can't play the music for It's a Small World.
Are you even allowed to say it?
Huh?
I'm teasing. I said, are you even allowed to say those words in that exact order?
You are allowed to say it. It's just saying it in a way that you copies the copyrighted notes, the copyrighted musical notes that you can't do.
You can't say it in a melodic way.
You can't say it in a melodic way that corresponds to a copyrighted song.
Yes.
So,
unless you're an AI.
even if you're an AI, this is YouTube we're talking about.
I know. I'm teasing and being
YouTube.
cynical about how some people get punished and some don't. But anyway, yes, there's a lot.
Yeah. We still have a ways to go on assets.
Although the actual percent of the exam for it is probably like what, 5%?
Yeah, I think so, if I remember right, 5% or so. But we'll get cracking on it on Wednesday.
Maybe we shouldn't have. Am I the only 12-year-old here?
Yep.
Okay, because we're talking about assets, and then you said but, and then you said we'll get cracking on it on Wednesday. Come on.
Yeah.
You're in a house full of boys, aren't you, Sarah?
Yeah. I am. That's funny.
Teenage
stuff,
boys.
people.
That's good stuff right there, Sarah. You can't pay for that kind of humor.
No, and it's weird. People won't pay for it either, darn it.
I'm glad
Alright.
Rodney is deleting this part for the supercut. All right.
Exactly.
All right. Everybody, we will see you on Wednesday.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Thank you for listening to The Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, Rodney, the Jira Guy Nissen, and Sarah, hashtag I Believe Sarah, right. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lena Ortiz. You can catch us as we record this podcast live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and the other Jiramigos of the Peanut Gallery each week to ask questions, add your comments, and tell us what you're up to. If you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. You can also find this as a podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you think this podcast deserves a rating, it would be much appreciated as it will help others discover the Jira Life. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us. Thank you to Revise for backing us up and making the Jira Life possible.